The Mavs sensation has already disproved the biggest myth about players like him. Most valuable player. That was the impossibly high expectation Luka Donic faced as he entered this season as a 21-year-old MVP favorite. He did not quite live up to that lofty ideal as he finished 6th in MVP voting, but he was most certainly the most valuable Maverick. Doncic was also more durable in 2020-21 as he only missed 6 games, mostly due to rest in the condensed schedule. After missing 10 and 14 games respectively in his first 2 seasons, he did show up to camp in less than stellar shape following an unexpectedly shortened offseason. The biggest development in Luka's game this season came as a shooter. When Luka makes off the dribble threes, he is quite possibly the greatest offensive weapon the league has ever, raising his percentage to nearly league average during the season, and then raising it again to nearly 41% on over 10 attempts a game during the playoffs is a staggering development. One of the more well-worn saws of basketball conventional wisdom is that, due to the fact that there are only 10 players on the court at a given time, the team with a transcendent superstar always has an advantage. It's one of those statements that seems so obviously true on its face that we don't often notice that it's often not. If it were, the Milwaukee Bucks would still be in the playoffs, and LeBron James would own a Bill Russell-like collection of rings. There are, however, players whose combination of ability and feel for the moment make you reluctant to ever pick against them. At present, there is one player like this above all others left in the playoffs, and it is the Dallas Mavericks' flatly unbelievable point guard Luka Donic. Doncic, whose Mavs play the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday in what promises to be an epic Western Conference Finals, was last seen leading a full-scale demolition of the top-seeded Phoenix Suns, who won a league-best 64 games in the regular season. In Game 6, facing elimination, Doncic scored 33 points to go with 11 rebounds and 8 assists, guiding the Mavs to a 27-point win. Game 7 was even more destructive, as Luka scored 35 points in a mere 30 minutes as the Mavs blew the Suns off their home floor in a 33-point victory, which wasn't even as close as it sounds. Doncic is only 23 years old and is currently in his 4th season in the NBA, which he joined in 2018 as arguably the most hyped European prospect in history. Doncic went on to win Rookie of the Year, and has already assembled eye-popping career averages of 26.4 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 8 assists. These career numbers get even sillier in the playoffs, where over the course of 3 appearances Doncic has averaged 32.7 points, 9.3 rebounds, and 8.3 assists. Until this year, Doncic had been bounced in the first round in each of his first 2 playoff appearances, through little fault of his own. After 5 games against the Suns, the Mavs found themselves down 3-2, with Phoenix relentlessly hunting Luka as a defender, his one real weakness. At that point, it seemed like Dallas was probably dead in the water. They'd finally advanced past the first round, and now could be a cool up-and-coming story going forward. But Doncic had other plans, and we're now left to wonder if Doncic might be fulfilling his prodigious promise even sooner than expected. The Warriors will look to throw whatever they can at Doncic, starting with guard Andrew Wiggins, an atrocious defensive player earlier in his career who has since improved immensely on that end. And Golden State still has no shortage of offensive firepower of its own, starting with Steph Curry, the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, who's still trying to shed an oh-so-mild reputation for postseason inconsistency. In a way, this series feels like the past and future of the league colliding, as Golden State looks for yet another run with the same core that won its first title back in 2015, while Doncic tries to make his first trip to the finals of what might well be many. If he's not playing your team, Doncic is a joy to watch. He is listed at 6'7" and 230 pounds, but plays considerably larger. He is one of the 2 or 3 best passers in basketball, and he competes with a passion and ferocious intelligence that only the greatest players possess. In terms of pure athleticism, he's not in the top tier of NBA players, but his combination of size, strength, and preternatural spatial awareness make him almost completely unguardable. He simply gets wherever he wants to and can make pretty much any shot he creates for himself. Like most good white players of the past 40 years, Doncic has often been compared to Larry Bird. He's more deserving of the comparison than the vast majority of his predecessors, but I still don't think it's quite accurate. Bird was purely a forward, and Luka isn't the generational shooter that Bird was. The impossibly lofty comparison I might venture instead is a player who retired long before I was born, Oscar Robertson. I have only seen Robertson's play in highlights, but there's something distinctly similar to Luka's game. The smarts, the creativity, the vision, the snarling irascibility. Doncic also seems like a historic player in another capacity. The final, resounding nail in the coffin of a hard-dying belief that great European players will prove to be soft in the NBA. The Slovenian Doncic was drafted 3rd overall in 2018, a minor slide that was baffling to many internationally oriented analysts who'd just seen him win the EuroLeague MVP as an 18-year-old for Real Madrid. The two guys picked ahead of him were center Deandre Ayton, who'd played 1 year at the University of Arizona and was drafted by the Phoenix Suns 1st overall, and forward Marvin Bagley III, who'd played a year at Duke and was drafted by the Sacramento Kings. And the team that originally held the 3rd overall pick, the Atlanta Hawks, traded Doncic to the Mavs in exchange for the 5th overall pick, which they used to draft Oklahoma guard Trae Young. It would be a Yao Ming-sized understatement to say that neither Ayton's nor Bagley's career has thus far turned out the way Doncic's has. Ayton's Suns were most recently getting torched by Doncic in the aforementioned Game 7. Ayton found himself riding the bench after a mere 17 minutes of play. Bagley's early career has been far bleaker, essentially busting out with a dysfunctional Kings organization before being traded to the cellar-dwelling Detroit Pistons earlier this season, where he has shown some signs of life. There are a number of reasons both of these players were selected over Luka. One is probably size. Both Ayton and Bagley are listed as 6'1", and there's still a belief in some front offices that bigger is better. Ayton and Bagley also went to top-flight American college programs, a context that many NBA scouts and front offices are more accustomed to evaluating. But there are also lingering whispers about whether Luka's success was inflated, if he could really make it in the NBA, if his game would translate, if NBA players would simply be too fast, too big, and too tough for him. These concerns are laughable in retrospect. Doncic isn't just a great player, he's a killer. The type of guy who feels like a supervillain when he plays against the team you root for. He's tough as hell and an inveterate shit talker, openly delighting in opposing teams' misery. The best basketball players, the ones that you can never, ever count out, play with a sense of cruelty. Luka has that, and now the Warriors have their hands full.